Come for the zombies, stay for the Zack Snyder. His new Netflix film, Army of the Dead, was one hell of a good time. Today on MythMachine, we're gonna talk about my spoiler-free thoughts first, and then we're gonna jump into some crazy spoilers and speculation. Let's do it. Zack Snyder's name is all over this thing. I mean, not only did he direct it, but he also worked on the script, co-produced with his wife Deborah, and worked as his own director of photography. So if you do not like Zack Snyder's previous work, you're probably not gonna like this. And I've seen some people complaining online already that it's too Zack Snyder-y, but what does that even mean? That's like going into a Wes Anderson film and complaining that there's too much pastel color and that everything is perfectly symmetrical. Or like walking out of a Quentin Tarantino movie and complaining that there was too much blood and snap zooms. You and I both knew exactly who made that film before you went into it, so if you were expecting it to feel like a Martin Scorsese film, then you set yourself up for disappointment. So please, stop whining, you did it to yourself. Army of the Dead is chock full of everything that you would expect out of a Zack Snyder film. Slow motion, interesting music choices, edge of your seat action, and thought-provoking world building. I mean, seriously, the film has so many blink and you miss it questions that are raised about the world and the nature of the zombies that it makes you stop and ask yourself, did I really actually just see what I think I saw? And just as you take a moment to stop and ask yourself that question, the film briskly moves along to the next story beat or action set piece. And I love that. I love that there are tiny bits of visual breadcrumbs left for those who want to follow the trail down the lore rabbit hole. But the film doesn't ever stop to linger on them long enough for it to distract from the main characters or storyline. There's enough there for lore junkies to chew on, but not so much that it's going to detract from anyone who just wants a popcorn good time at the movies. The majority of what was shown in the trailers is just in the first 20 minutes of the film, which left a whole lot of room for shocks and surprises. And the worn down neon aesthetic of quarantined Las Vegas was such a nice change of pace compared to the drab cities and rural areas that we're used to seeing from these types of films. The film absolutely lives up to its title by giving us waves and waves of the living dead, but it turns most of the typical zombie tropes up to 11 and combines almost every kind of zombie we've seen in other films from the genre, which definitely makes it feel fresh and exciting. Because many of the typical zombie rules are thrown out the window, I found myself continually surprised at what the zombies were capable of. When the movie ended, I definitely wanted to see more of these zombies, and when a movie leaves you wanting more, it's usually a very, very good thing. Now, I went into this film expecting a bombastic popcorn horror action thriller where I could just shut my brain off and go along for the ride. And this definitely delivers on that front, but I was also pleasantly surprised at how character-driven this film actually was. The pacing was much slower than I anticipated in a good way. It took the time to develop the relationships between the main characters so that the stakes were properly set later in the film, so that we as an audience were actually concerned for their well-being. The relationship between Dave Bautista and his daughter actually meant something to me because of the time they took to delve into their relationship more than a typical movie in this genre. And let's just stop and talk about Dave Bautista for a minute because holy cow, he did a great job. Dave Bautista, in my opinion, is usually only good in very specific roles. He's great in Guardians of the Galaxy because he plays a very one-note type of character, and I enjoyed him in Blade Runner 2049 for the same reason. But other than that, I've never thought that he was particularly good in any of his other roles, and he's usually just a supporting member of the cast. But he really showed a lot of range in this movie that I hadn't ever seen from him before, and honestly, he proved that he has leading man star power. Look, I'll just say it, I loved Dave Bautista in this. This was perfect casting, and I'm now very excited to see him in the upcoming Knives Out sequel on Netflix. Did I just become a Dave Bautista fan? Can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm a Dave Bautista fan. What is going on? Now, let's talk about the cinematography real quick because I've also seen a few people complaining that it was blurry. Now, the majority of this movie was shot with a super shallow depth of field, and while I definitely noticed it, it never once pulled me out of the movie. The film was shot on the Red Monstro 8K with Canon rangefinder lenses from the 1960s, and because of this, the cinematography here has a very unique feel that you're not gonna get in most films, especially those made for streaming. These Canon lenses had to be specifically modified and rehoused so that they would work more efficiently with the Red camera. They have an f-stop of 0.95, which for you camera nerds out there makes for an insanely shallow depth of field. When shot like this, the focus is extremely planned out and deliberate. When your eyes are focused on a section of the frame, it's because the director wanted your focus there. Now, beyond the unique look that these lenses give, I think that it was a very strategic choice on Zack's part to keep the background out of focus for most of the movie to hide any imperfections or budgetary constraints. This movie was only made for $90 million, which for a Netflix film is actually on the low end of the spectrum. Most of their films are made for upwards of 150 million. And without the numbers in front of me, I never would have known that this was shot for less than that. This felt like a massive blockbuster that was shot for way, way more than it actually was. Another thing I never would have noticed was the absence of Chris D'Elia. For those of you who don't know, he was originally cast in this film and even went through all of the principal photography with the entire cast, but after many allegations of various types went against him, the filmmakers decided to cut him from the film entirely and replace him with comedian Tig Notaro. Now, that means that they filmed the whole movie with Chris and replaced him with Tig. That means that they had to go back through the whole entire movie, CGI Chris out, go back to the studio with Tig, shoot her on a green screen, and add her back into the film. She didn't shoot a single scene with another actor, meaning she was all alone on a green screen for every single one of her scenes. She was entirely on green screen, and the results, in my opinion, were absolutely seamless. Both from a technical standpoint and looking at pulling off a believable performance as an actor, that's insanely impressive. Now, in modern zombie or monster films, they tend to rely heavily on CGI. Think of the hordes of zombies in World War Z or the creatures in I Am Legend. Now, while Army of the Dead absolutely has its fair share of CGI, to me, it never felt like CGI was used as a crutch, and I really appreciated how much effort went into the use of practical effects and makeup. There were so many great chase scenes or close-ups of the zombies where you could just tell that so much attention and detail went into each and every one of them. I mean, just look at how massive the list of crew is for the makeup department alone. Now, obviously, I've been talking about all the things that I appreciated and enjoyed about the film, but there were a few things that took me out of it. The score that was done by Tom Hulkenberg or Junkie XL really wasn't anything to write home about. And it wasn't bad by any means, but after watching the film, I literally couldn't recall a single memorable moment in the score, which is honestly a shame because I think he knocks it out of the park most of the time. That being said, I've gone back and listened to the score on Spotify, and it's a really good score on its own, but when you put it to film, it just didn't really do that much to really elevate it. There were also a few character motivations that, while they made sense, I would have liked to have a little more explanation as to why a character's decision was so important to them, especially when it came to Dave Bautista's daughter's choices in the movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I've also heard people complain about the runtime of this movie. It's 2 hours and 28 minutes, which to me flew by. But again, this is a Zack Snyder movie. His movies are always long, and I wouldn't expect anything else. Plus, in comparison to the 4 to 8 hour binge sessions that Netflix expects from its viewers nowadays, 2 hours is nothing, especially in a movie as fun as this. Those things aside, I had an absolute blast in this film. So overall, I would give this movie a 4 out of 5 because it delivers on exactly what it promised. Fun zombie action, but with pleasantly surprising character moments and interesting world building that, if it gets enough Netflix viewers to tune in, will 100% set up an awesome franchise. In a post-Walking Dead world, this has the potential to be what we really want from a zombie franchise, where not only can the humans be the villains, but it can really put the horror back on the zombies and make us more terrified of them than we have been as an audience for a very long time. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, then pause the video, go watch it, and then come back here because we're gonna go and talk spoilers and speculation right now. But really quickly, this video is made possible by Urwell Clothing. They make literally the best men's shirts I've ever worn because unlike other men's brands, they actually innovate and do something different. Their super comfy shirts have a breathable double layer so that they're not see-through if you've got a hairy chest or like to wear an undershirt, and the weight of the shirt makes it lay better and retain its shape. It looks classier than a normal t-shirt, so you can dress it up or wear it alone and look classy AF in any occasion. I'll leave a link to their site in the description down below so that you can use the code MYTHWELL for 15% off site-wide. But seriously though, stop settling for the same old t-shirt and click the link below to get the innovative double-layered Urwell t-shirt today. Now let's get back to some zombies. Not only is this a zombie movie, but it's a zombie heist movie, and it honors the heist elements of the story just as much as it does the zombie elements. But what I loved is that they breezed past all of the stereotypical scenes of putting the team together. In other heist films, those sequences take up a huge chunk of the story. The main character is tasked with putting together a crew with specific abilities that will help them accomplish their goal, but the crew members are always reluctant to join for one reason or another. But there's zero tension there because we as an audience already know that they're going to end up joining the team and helping out. So I really appreciated that they just breezed past all of that BS and kind of made a joke out of it.
100% I'm in, yeah.
You don't want to know, the risks, or?
Why would I want to know the risks?
You sure you don't want to know?
I bet it had something to do with a helicopter.
Yeah.
I'm the helicopter guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do I sign?
Okay.
I'm in.
Man, I really love that character. I don't know what it would have been with Chris, but Tig, you did a fantastic job. Now, I mentioned earlier that as the film progressed, there were all these blink and you miss it world building moments. Near the beginning of the film, I noticed 2 lights flying in the sky. Were those UFOs? It doesn't dig into it, and it leaves the door open for a sequel or prequel to dig into it, and I love that. And Netflix has already shot a prequel film for this that follows the character of Dieter, so we can expect that to drop later this year or possibly next. I also kept noticing that a few zombies here and there had glowing eyes, and at first I wasn't sure if I was actually seeing that, but then it continued to happen and I was sure of what I had seen when I paused the film and I saw this. Is that a robot zombie? Okay, so we've got aliens, zombies, and robots. What is going on? I mean, my best guess is that the government has been trying to do experiments of some kind on the zombies, maybe to combat a potential alien invasion, or the zombie virus came from aliens. I don't know. I just know that I really hope this franchise is successful enough to continue so Zack and company can give us some answers, because they're incredibly intriguing. And I love the world that they've set up here. I thought it was really cool that Zeus, the alpha zombie, wore a metal helmet so that he couldn't be shot in the brain. And I'm also intrigued to find out what was going on with the zombie baby. It had that same blue glow that some of the zombie eyes had. And I'm sure there will be some sort of connection and explanation in future stories. There was also a lot of insane zombie gore in this film, but I'd have to say that the scene with Valentine the tiger was the most gnarly. I mean, you literally see her go to town on a dude's face and it doesn't cut away. You just know that the whole team involved with that scene was sitting there saying, we have got to top the bear scene in The Revenant. Well, mission accomplished, guys. That was pretty disgusting. I had an absolute blast watching this movie. I hope you did too. Let me know if you think this franchise has legs and if you think it should continue. Let me know in the comments down below. Let's talk about what you'd like to see from a sequel or a spin-off film. And if you liked this video, please like and subscribe. I'm serious, guys. It really does help the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around.